So I love Asics shoes, and everyone loves this shoe, but for a few different reasons, I've not really been able to love it back. So that's what I'm doing today. I wanted to talk about the Asics Superblast 1, I guess, now that we know officially that the 2 is coming, and why I've had a kind of turbulent relationship with these. So I wanted to go through a few stats first. Let's talk about just the facts of the shoe before we get onto the potentially spicy opinions, as I know this is absolutely a fan favourite shoe. So the shoe is £195. It's 45.5 millimeters of stack at its highest point, which I assume is this chunky bit here. It's got an 8mm drop in the shoe, and it also weighs 238 grams, which is pretty impressive for a shoe of this size and heft and stack. So the stats read really well, other than the big one, which is price, which we'll definitely get onto later. And I think that sort of starts to pad out my general opinion of the shoe, which is that actually the concept of the shoe is perfect, but the way that it feels isn't. So I love the idea of the Superblast as a cushioned but responsive trainer that you can kind of use for everything, and particularly, is strong on long runs. That's the kind of shoe that I've been waiting for a long time. And so when I saw that this shoe was coming out, I was super excited, and it took me a while to be able to get hold of it. So I want to go through what I like about the shoes, and my first one 100% is the way that they look. And this is a little bit superficial, so it's not quite as important as some of my other likes, which are maybe a bit more noticeable. But I think these are really good looking shoes. I'm a stickler for a good looking running shoe, and sometimes, I won't name names, but there's been running shoes where I really wanted to try them out, but because I can't find them in a nice colourway, or I generally think the design of them really sucks, I've not got them. And they've been shoes that I genuinely really wanted to try out. I really like a good looking pair of running shoes, and these are definitely that. This colour is potentially garish, but it's held up really well over the distance. Obviously they're not the cleanest right now, they've got a little bit of muck on them. Come on, Molly, come on. Good. Because I took them on a run to the beach recently, but these are fantastic shoes. I really like the way they look. I like the lacing through the cold winter nights in these highlighter type shoes. Definitely helps visibility. So definitely love the appearance. The next big thing that I really loved was the upper of the shoe. I think it's proper fantastic upper. It might be one of the best uppers of any running shoe that I've ever ran in. I don't know what the consensus is about them, but I feel that they are really just perfect for what this shoe needs. So it's super light here in the forefoot, and this mesh, it feels super thin, and it's borderline like getting towards that racing feel. But then here at the back, the heel has got like a really nice padded collar. It doesn't get too sweaty, it doesn't get too stiff, it doesn't get too sore, it does not rub. And shoes that I prefer the feel of, but not the upper of, have rubbed, especially around the heel collar for whatever reason. The way my foot goes has clearly caused some pain and blistering there, but this has never done that, no matter the long run. And I love that about this shoe. I think that the upper design is fantastic. The laces have never been a problem. I've heard people complain about them before. I like that they're long. I use a runner's knot, and they've been perfect for me. So I cannot complain about the upper. It's literally been near perfect for me across 250 kilometers of running. And speaking of how long that they've been running, they are seriously not showing even the slightest bit of wear. They've been amazing. The rubber on the sole is totally intact. The foam's got some crease in, but that's really superficial. But actually all of this grip has been amazing and really plenty. The foam still feels the same as when I bought it, and I would say even it's probably broken in a little bit, in a good way, but the upper has no signs of wear. I've taken this on some kind of difficult terrain runs, which I probably shouldn't have because of the stack and blah blah blah. How durable this shoe has been starts to justify the cost of the shoe as well. I mean, you know, when you're paying £200 for a shoe, you want to make sure that it's going to last you, and I do feel as though this shoe could give me 1,000 kilometers. Seriously, I do think it could last that long. It feels like a bit of a starship. Underfoot is proper loggy, strong, and it's a maximalist shoe, and I think with the prices that these sort of super trainers are going, you need to start to be able to expect that sort of durability out of the shoes, and I think the thing that will give way will be the foam before any other part of the shoe actually starts to disintegrate. So it would just be about how bouncy that foam will be for how long. So as I say, I love the concept of this shoe, but the execution just wasn't quite there, unfortunately, and I think there's a few reasons for why I didn't fall in love with this shoe, because I would have loved to. I would have loved to love this shoe. So I'm going to go over the main reasons in which I didn't get on with this shoe, or at least so far, because I do plan on putting more kilometers into it. So the first thing is the feel. So it's the ground contact feel with this shoe. It's firm. The way that this shoe lands for such a big stack, for such a chunky shoe, it lands really firmly, and for whatever reason the rocker in the shoe did not work for me at all, and it gives me the sensation that I'm almost clopping in the shoe, like I'm almost just like plodding along really flat, and I almost always feel as though I'm landing in this sort of dead zone here, right in the crux of the shoe, and I'm not twisting onto my toes and really springing up. It's a really hard sensation to explain, but I just feel as though I'm hitting the ground with all of the bottom of the shoe at the same time, and it's something that doesn't happen in any of my other shoes, and I'm quite a strong forefoot striker, so I don't know why this shoe pushed me to that feeling or that sensation or maybe that strike, but this is not an experience that I've had in any of the other running shoes I have, where I feel like I'm almost quite flatly landing, and I don't have that spring on the toe off. I just am chunking down like this. You know, the same foam which I've experienced in the Meta Speed Sky just hasn't actually worked in the same way for this shoe, and it could be me being really particular or wanting different things out of this shoe, and it's probably my own bad for wanting a shoe that could take the pace up and etc, but still not be super cushioned and too soft, and then all of a sudden complaining that it feels too firm. You know, it's quite a contrarian argument, but I do feel that you can have the best of both worlds, and that was a big part of it for me. I think the other thing is that for the firmness that the shoe does gain, it struggles then at top speed, and unfortunately that was another negative for me, is that when I did take this shoe faster, a mixture of nearly the weight but more the size and the feel of the shoe, that sort of responsiveness that I wasn't getting from it, meant that when I tried to push the pace in the middle of a long run like I was hoping to be able to, I just couldn't find the speed there. I was having to work harder than I would even in a super soft, bouncy, invincible type shoe. Unfortunately, this shoe just feels too firm to be what I need it to be, and that's really sad, because I wanted to love the shoe, and I know people who love this shoe. I ran with a lad during the Manchester Marathon who was my age, my build, and going for a sub 4 hour race, and he was running in these, he was running this exact colourway, and I caught up with him and we were together sort of tandeming for 90% of the race, and he said that he loved this shoe to death, and it was his favourite shoe he's ever running, and he's running loads of shoes. He'd had a lot more shoes than me, which I was very jealous of, but he absolutely loved this shoe. He said, I've got plated shoes, he had the Alpha Fly 2, etc, and he chose to run his marathon in this shoe over everything, which I thought sort of told you everything you need to know, especially if he was a real shoe geek. So this shoe clearly works for people, and I'm not saying that this shoe won't work for you, but what I would say is that for this price, the shoe hasn't done enough for me personally to justify it, which I hate saying, because I love the brand, I love the look, I love the concept, I love the idea, I love the upper, but the feel of running in this shoe just isn't quite as responsive as I would like it to be. It doesn't have the cushion, and it doesn't have the fun, the kind of shoe that would do the things I'm looking for in this shoe might have. And I'm starting to hope that there can be another version of this shoe that can give me that. So the Superblast 2 is rumoured, it's out there, it's on the feet of runners, it's on the feet of Ben Felton, I think I saw recently, and definitely other people. And it looks great. It looks like an iteration of this shoe, but if they can deal with the firmness problem and the ground contact feel problem in that shoe, I'll be willing to give it another try, 100%, because I'm close to loving it, but I don't even like it. And that strange middle gap is the feel of the shoe, and how I'm not able to almost, as I said, fall in love with it because of the feel. Anecdotally as well, I just wanted to talk about a couple of runs that I've done, comparing long runs in this shoe to a shoe that I made my first video about, which was the Invincible. So these runs were all in the sort of 20 to 30 kilometer range, and it's less about the times that I was actually producing in these runs, because they were all sort of long, slow distance runs, but more actually about the feeling that I had on these runs. And I remember on the run that I did in the Superblast, which was a one-way point-to-point long run that I think was about 25 kilometers, my legs were knackered. I felt so tired, and towards the end of the run I was really blowing on tugs, and that was a point where I was probably 4 or 5 weeks away from a marathon, so not quite in the taper phase yet, but not too far away. And for some reason I didn't have that feeling in these shoes where I was like, yeah, just plodding along, just bouncing along, yada yada yada. In the Invincibles, on those same kind of runs, or even longer, I felt calm, comfortable. As I say, I even ended up with some small blistering around the heels, but it was minor because the actual feel of the run was so much easier. And maybe what I'm looking for out of this shoe isn't what it's given me. But my question then is, what is this shoe giving you? And I understand that firm stride will be definitely something that a lot of runners like. But for me, it's been too firm for too long, and I'm not sure what I would want to use this shoe for. Daily miles? Well, I'm not going to buy a shoe for £200 that I'm just going to do daily miles in. Long runs? Well, now I can find more cushioned or plated or semi-plated or more responsive long run shoes, whether that be a full-on race day shoe that I want to test out, like the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro or the Adios Pro 3, which a lot of people love as a long run shoe, or whether that be a super trainer with plates like the Mizuno Neo Vista that's coming out, like the Hoka Skyward X, or just a really solid daily trainer that can handle those miles but is £140 and not 200. So I think that's my overall gripe with the shoe. I really would have loved to love this shoe, and I just couldn't quite. I'm going to take it for more miles. I'm going to keep going in this shoe. I've been told a lot of times it's going to break down, it's going to get softer, it requires 20 miles to break in, it requires 40 miles to break in, it requires 100 miles to break in. And I even saw someone yesterday that said that I'm on 300 miles in these shoes and I still feel like they're getting better with every run. I can't say that I'm feeling a progression or I'm feeling like there's a positive correlation with these shoes. So I think that's going to have to be something that I wait and see if I find as I get towards maybe the 500 kilometer mark, and maybe I'll do another video then as a super long-term review, kind of like maybe how this is a super trainer. But here's to Asics smashing it in the next version, and that being something that really gels with me. So see you in a bit.